to state that everyone look at the title. We see there's a red button there. So Ian will probably talk a little bit about that as he introduces himself. But we will start recording the room in a few seconds.
Yeah, I just started the recording. That way we had a chance to announce it. So welcome everybody. My name is Ian Utilli. It's an honor to be here with friends and peers and heroes and mentors. Certainly, I have had Dr. Fisher and Noel as mentors to me as I've watched their success, what they've done, and drafted behind them and benefited greatly from that. This is the AI Leadership Institute. This is called NLP, NLU, and Voice Tech. It is being live broadcast to our Amazon Lexi skills. So if you have a friend that doesn't have a Clubhouse access, maybe they're on an Android device, all they have to do is enable the Attention Live skill, and then they can just say to open Attention Live, and they can say what channel. They can say Ian Utilli or the AI Leadership Institute. And let's see, we're creating NFTs. So there's a gold NFT for the 5 moderators that's special just for us, that kind of signifies our intellectual property. And there's a silver NFT made available for everybody else in the room. And Terry will explain exactly how we can get your emails. We can send that to you. I'm honored to be here. This is Monique's room. This is Denise's room. This is Noel's room. Terry and I are simply here to be part of the conversation, learn, support them, use our Attention Live tool. And I'll finally just say, if you want to know what Attention Live is, you can click on my face and read. I basically describe it as Clubhouse plus HubSpot plus OpenSea. So if that makes sense to you, good. If not, you can do some more investigating. And I'm just realizing that I have to actually add the AI Leadership Institute into my Alexa skill. And fortunately, our skill works in real time. So I'll be doing that right now. That way, if anybody says it, it'll work. I just remembered I forgot to do that because I have to add and remove these keywords. So I'm done. I'm happy to be here. And it's great to be able to live broadcast a room and show this model. And if you come on stage, understand you're being recorded. And we're letting you know that in advance. And glad to be here.
And Terry, so why don't you go ahead? I know that you have something to share in terms of how individuals can actually get their NFTs.
Yeah, thanks. So, really exciting. So everybody here in the room, if you would like to get a collectible NFT specific to this very room, it has today's date on it, and it's going to feature all the moderators on the NFT. You can go to thevoiceden.club. So that's the website, thevoiceden.club. And you'll be asked to put in your name, your email address so that we can send you the NFT. And there's a secret code. And the reason we have a secret code is so that only people that are actually part of this room right now get to have access to this NFT. And I think it's very fitting. The secret code for today is leadership. So it's in the title of this club, AI Leadership Institute. Make sure that you have subscribed to this club if you haven't already. And the secret code is leadership. So we can periodically, whenever you reset the room, Monique, you can share those instructions again. Thevoiceden.club with the code leadership. And what I'll do is I'll just change my avatar here in a moment to not this one, not today's, but I'll show you an example of what the NFT will look like. So I can do that right now. So thanks, Monique.
Thank you, Terry, for that. So we will get started with the discussion. Today, we will be talking about NLP, NLU, and voice tech and how the three converge or come together to allow us to create a better experience for those who actually use their voice devices. And so we want to just start off with the general question for the panel. And before I do that, actually, Nalormi, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. I know that you're on the stage. Welcome. Are you here to join in the conversation, or did you have a question?
Hi, Monique. It's Nalormi. Thanks for bringing up me on stage. I didn't have a specific question. I was just here to learn and listen, and because I was very, very fascinated about how the live streaming happens and what the NFT works like. Like I have just got used to the concept of NFT, so I was curious to learn. So now I don't have any question. I will just be a curious listener for the time being.
And Nalormi has jumped into past rooms with me on voice tech and NLP and NLU. And she has had wonderful questions for past moderators and has provided a lot of great input. So when I saw her jump into the room early, I thought, oh, let's bring her on stage to say hello. So we're glad that you're here.
Yeah, and actually I think your inadvertent non-question is actually a question I'd love Ian or Cherry for you guys to talk about. NFTs are such a cool thing. They're getting more popular by the day. I know some of us maybe saw that and were like, oh, that's what I want to, hear about. But many of us may not be there yet. So if you wouldn't mind, just for the room, just giving, a 2-minute or 30-second overview of what an NFT is and why it's kind of getting some fanfare these days, that would be really helpful, I think.
So Terry, why don't we both try to do 20 seconds and keep it short? Why don't you go first, please?
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm eating my lunch. You caught me just with my mouth almost full. I'm just swallowing. So yeah, if people want to pull to refresh right now, you can see that I've actually changed my avatar to a sample NFT. This is not the one for today. This is the one that we did earlier in the week in another room. But basically what an NFT is, the way, Ian describes this very well, and I'm gonna take some of Ian's words here. But he describes it as a deed to a home. So if you own a property, you have a contract that shows that you own that property. And what an NFT is, a non-fungible token, it's basically a digital version of that deed to the home that verifies your ownership of a digital asset, whether that is an image, whether that is audio, as we're talking about here today, or voice content. And so what happens is when you, for example, with I can speak about this platform that we're using right now, attn.live, as audio is being streamed, an NFT is being generated in the background, which then automatically essentially gets logged on the blockchain. And then that exists for someone to sell, to license, to do whatever they want with, or keep it simply as their proof of their ownership of that digital asset or their IP, in this case, voice. So I'll stop there, Ian, I'll let you take over.
Okay, well, I think you did a great job. I don't think I have to say a whole lot more. I believe that people will come up with very specific questions about NFTs. I'll say that NFTs right now are a huge bubble, and 99% of the revenue that's being spent on NFTs probably won't pan out, just like the ICO market for blockchain was a huge bubble, just like the app market, when people started making apps 10 years ago for phones, was a bubble, just like the internet was a bubble 20 years ago. Nevertheless, just because people are kind of going crazy for NFTs doesn't take away the validity of an NFT, right? And just because somebody can steal a car doesn't mean that the person that owns the pink slip to that car doesn't have validity of ownership of that vehicle. An NFT is simply a pink slip that signifies that somebody owns something. So the words that Noel say today, that Denise say, that Monique says, that Terry and I say, for the 5 of us, when we speak, it's being recorded. It can be transcribed. That transcription is an SRT file that will be tied to the NFT that's being given. The audio file, when they speak, those words, how they said it, will be given and tied to that NFT. That way, the 5 of us that are moderators, we have basically a pink slip to the content that we create on the fly as we're answering questions around NLP, NLU, and voice tech. Now, I don't talk a lot about the financial side, like, oh, these NFTs are collectible. That may be true, but that's not my focus. My focus very specifically is on protecting podcasters, Clubhouse moderators, Clubhouse speakers, people that are running and hosting Twitter Spaces rooms, teachers, preachers, educators, anybody that uses their mouth to speak. Because right now, musicians are protected by ASCAP and BMI, by Universal and Warner, but there's no piece of technology, no organization that is really protecting those that use their mouth and use the tool of spoken word like we're doing right now. And we believe that NFTs is a great way to do that. So we'd like to include the audience. And like Terry said, go to the THE voice, VOICE, den.club, CLUB. Go to the voiceden.club and then let us know that you'd like one of the silver NFTs and we'll send it. It'll have me, Terry, Monique, Denise, Noel, and the AI Leadership Institute logo on it. And that'll be a fun little item for you to remember that you were part of this. And it's a great way for us to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you for engaging with us. Thank you for asking great questions.
And they'll just need the secret code, which is leadership, in honor of this club.
Thank you both, Terry and Ian, for explaining that for everyone, to everyone. So we will get started with our topic for today. So the first question really is around NLP, NLU, and a voice text space. And just want to open it up to the group and talk about how you even either got started in the space. Just give us like a minute or two of how you got started in the space. If you can fit it within there. I know Noel and some of the others have more than a minute or two. But just talk to the group about how you got into this space and what about it? What do you really love? What's the one thing that you love about this space that we're in? So Noelle, why don't you start?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I could start. I will keep mine brief because there are many of my friends here who have heard my story, but I'm going to try and actually share a unique perspective of it. So I actually have been, I guess, involved in accessible tech for the last 15 years. As I mentioned, my son has Down syndrome, so I've been a technologist my entire career, and in doing that, I got very it's like the reticular activation system, right? Everything I looked at from a technology perspective, I started looking at it through my son's eyes, and so I saw when Alexa was in beta, I saw this really interesting opportunity. And I knew nothing about voice. And this is one thing that I always like to talk to the people in this room about who are new to this space. I knew nothing when I started. I had no experience in artificial intelligence. I, am not classically trained as a computer scientist. I'm a developer for sure. I know how to learn. I learned Java by going to Barnes and Noble and, picking up coding books and practicing the exercises. And I got really good at it. And so when I saw Alexa, I saw opportunity, again, kind of through the lens of my son. That same year that Alexa launched, my dad was hit by a car, and it severely impacted his ability to use any technology at all. And again, Alexa happened to be at the right place at the right time for me. So I just started thinking about how do I literally voice enable anything? And it started off with Alexa, my very first skill, just to wrap up this kind of intro conversation. My very first skill, what I did is I went to Google and I said, what are people looking for help on in general? And mindfulness, kindness, emotional intelligence, empathy was all trending super high that day. And so my first skill ended up being daily affirmation. And my second skill was mindfulness. And they ended up doing very well because at that time, Alexa had none of that. They have lots of it now, but there was none of that. And so I think the world, and it's funny because I always say that it was uniquely Noelle. Like those were things that Noelle, wanted on the platform. And it turned out I wasn't alone. And I think that's true for all of us, that this space is new enough that we need people who think differently about the solutions we could have, about the problems we can solve with voice. And lots of them are reliant on how we use technology today. Your very specific experience could actually change this technology for millions of people. And that's what I found to be true for me and also for many of the other people in this room. So I look forward to, I want to just say really quickly, I invite you to, like Mike did, and I don't know how to say your name, but hopefully we'll have you introduce yourself. But please ask questions. This room becomes much more vibrant and exciting when we learn who you are. And even if you're new, like this is a place where you can chime in and give your perspective because this space is new and your voice is needed. So thanks for giving me a couple minutes to talk to that, Monique.
Thank you, Noelle. And I forgot that I do want to mention in the effort of, for those who are listening that with listening devices of 8, we do want to introduce ourselves, at least say our name at the beginning and then say we're done. When we're finished talking, say that we're done talking. So I just want to make sure that we're mindful of that because I always, in my head, I always think about that we need to say it, but now that I remembered, I want to just remind the group. So this is Monique again, and we are talking about NLU, NLP, and voice tech and the convergence of the three. And so, the question was, how did you get into this space and what excites you the most about it? So Mikey and Nigel, I see that you're there as well. Let me go to Mikey, and hopefully I pronounce your name correctly. You can correct me if I didn't, but why don't you talk about, your experience in this space because I joined the luncheon, the voice lunch. a number of times, so I'm excited to have you on stage.
Thank you so much, Monique. And my name is pronounced as Maike, so Maike. But I basically kind of respond to everything in between that and Mike. So thank you, Ian, for inviting me on stage. I was actually planning to just, kind of relax and listen in, but then I saw who is here and so many familiar faces and voices. So I thought, I'll just say a quick hello and then kind of, vanish into the background again. Monique already mentioned that I host a bi-weekly meetup called Voice Lunch, Language and Linguistics. And that's also where my roots lie, because a long, long time ago, I trained as a classical phonologist. So I studied the sound structure of languages. And I was just fascinated by, as a young girl, I learned English in secondary school. And I was just fascinated by the difference between the pronunciations of words that looked quite similar on paper. Like world in English is really hard to pronounce when you try it the Dutch way, because then it becomes something like world. It's funny because in Dutch it is actually wereld. So we take two syllables, whereas the English-speaking people, they put it all in one. And this is actually what I wrote my thesis on like 10 years later. So it always fascinated me how sounds kind of interplay. Then I basically did nothing with that for 25 years until 2 years ago. I discovered chatbots, voice assistants, and I realized, hey, this is fascinating. This is where all my interests, psychology, user support, copywriting, but also linguistics all come together. And that's when I took the plunge, started my own company as a conversation designer, as a linguist, and I guess most specifically as a connector. I love, connecting people and kind of, make things work for them. Right now, my greatest pleasure is that for the first time in my entire career, I'm working full-time as a linguist. So I'm kind of optimizing Dutch language models at the moment, working with data scientists, actually writing my first Python data frames, I think they're called. So I'm kind of training, I'm kind of, following Noel's footsteps, kind of, starting grassroots and learning a lot from the people around me. And that's, I guess, enough. And if anybody wants to connect, I see a lot of familiar faces in the audience. I see my colleague Claire is here. So if you get a chance to get on stage, please do, because I learned so much from you. I see Grace. I see so many familiar faces. So just come up here, join me, so I can go and lie on the couch.
Thank you, Micah, for introducing yourself and sharing your passion and what you're doing. It's so great to hear, that you are actually, working in the space that you love to be in, right? And I think that's the great thing about it is now it's not just a tech space, even though, there's a lot of tech around it, but people like yourself, linguists, or even in my case, I work in ed tech, so speech pathologists and teachers and content writers and podcasters. This particular space is open up to so many individuals to help us create a more rich experience for those who actually use our voice apps. So I want to actually go to Denise. Denise, why don't you talk about, voice and how you got into the space and what excites you about it?
Thank you so much. So I actually started hearing about Alexa a couple of years ago, and there was this event called Voice Summit. And I was encouraged by someone to apply and submit just a conversation around podcasting. And I found out about the same day and I submitted, but they already had a panel of speakers. So they were like, look, we want to give you a free ticket. And I was like, oh yeah, this is great. So I ended up going to Voice Summit in New Jersey, and I happened to take this class on just chatbot and just different things surrounding voice. And the person who happened to be my teacher was Noel Silver. And Monique Howard was also in that class. So I never forget how I met Noel and Monique. I met them the same day, and it was just such a great experience. And they were just so supportive, just encouraging me about the podcasting space. At that time, I might have just started my incubator, and I had maybe 50 members. I'm over 480 members. And what the most thing that's exciting to me about voice is the awareness about just the awareness that we have to bring to podcasters and others. And then I am also in the social work space. So I work as a behavior assistant. I work, I do translation for early intervention. And I also work in a internship right now with dual diagnosis mental health. And I see the barriers, I see the limitations, and I see how voice and AI can really be integrated. And there's been so many conversations that I've had. And that's the exciting part to me, how anyone, myself, who didn't think they were techie, and meeting Noelle and Monique almost 2 years ago, and, you know, I even sat at a table with them, and they didn't even know me. And they just embraced me, said, look, you know podcasting, you do tech. And they encouraged me. And now I've been creating flash briefings. I've been telling I've been telling the members of Podcasters in New Jersey to encourage them about what flash briefings are, what skills are. And it's just been such a pleasant experience. I was able to even teach a class about these things that I would never think that I can do. And I say that to a lot of people who are creatives or are in the healthcare system or as clinicians or therapists or whatever field you're in. Don't be afraid. And I think that having the support of these two ladies, and I've told this story before, but I just have to say I'm just very blessed to be in the room with Ian, Dr. Fisher, and, you know, Nigel, who I met. And I'm just very excited to just bring awareness and to have these, you know, intersectional conversations, specifically in social work and these places, to say, hey, AI can actually help integrate, you know, intakes, assessments. We also talked about living wills and advanced directives for people that I've dealt with in these communities, in these populations. So that's what excites me, and just bringing it to podcasting. And I'm just excited about it. So just wanted to say that, and I'm done talking.
Thank you, Denise. And this is Monique again. That was a great story. I often think about how the three of us met, and that, you know, one of our goals coming onto the platform was really to educate. So that's what the AI Leadership Institute is all about, educating those around AI, welcoming everyone into the conversation, and then opening it up to the experts so that we can learn from them. And so I really appreciate the fact that you two are still here. We're together coming along on this journey. And I'm looking forward to many more rooms. So I do see others that are on the stage. Thank you. And once again, Nigel, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, but Kaio, Manuel, Claire, and Grace, I do see you all down there. But let me go ahead and get to Dr. Terry, and then we will allow you guys to ask questions. And I do have some additional questions I want to ask just everyone on stage. So Terry, why don't you talk about your introduction into either NLP, NLU, and voice, and then what do you love most about it right now?
Thanks, Mike. It's Terry speaking. So my introduction to voice is about 3 or 4 years ago, when I actually first became aware of Amazon Alexa. And I've always been really interested in technology. Like, ever since I was a kid, I just like playing with the latest gadgets, everything from like radio controlled airplanes. I used to love building those things, to the first Palm Pilots, to here's a funny story. Before it was like common to do invitations online for weddings, I actually burned 100 DVDs of like a slideshow of my wife and I that we sent out as invitations. That was crazy. But anyway, that aside, so I've always been really interested in voice tech. And yeah, like I said, about 3 years ago was when I really became aware of Alexa. I started to think about more and more how voice is, I believe, the next operating system, and how we are shifting more and more from using a keyboard to a mouse to a touchscreen to our voices to interact with computers. We're seeing kids being able to interact with technology because they can speak before they learn how to read or write. And that is creating a whole new dimension in terms of the way people interact with computers. So that's really my fascination with it, is how we are speaking with computers voice first. A lot of friends here in the voice community will know that this term voice first refers to, you know, the fact that we can speak with computers primarily with our voices. It doesn't mean only. I'll be very clear, but that's not voice only. There's lots of fantastic use cases, and probably there are times that we shouldn't use our voice, but nevertheless, I think voice is the way that we're going to be interfacing with computers more and more going forward. So that's my fascination with it. And I'm done speaking. Thanks, Monique.
Thank you, Terry. And this is Monique speaking once again. So great. So we do have others on the stage. Like I said, the conversation is around NLP, NLU, and voice tech, and how the three converge together to allow us to create greater experiences for those who use applications that we build on voice assistant devices like Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant. As I'm going to go down to those who come up on the stage, if you want to contribute to the conversation, please do so or ask a question. So Nigel, welcome. We're so happy to have you on the stage. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and contribute to the conversation?
Hey everyone, I'm Nigel Wright, and I'm so happy to see, the wonderful faces that I've come to know and love, from being on this platform and in these rooms. My connection to voice started, very similar to Denise, with meeting Denise, Noelle, and Monique, and them teaching me about Alexa and expanding my technology knowledge that I've gained over years into seeing just the opportunities to provide access to technology to other people in areas that I'm passionate about, which is, more, I think in some ways, technology is sometimes oppressive to seniors. And I think with a little, effort, we can make it more accessible, more meaningful, more valuable, if you would, by, just focusing on those areas, the low hanging fruit. Also, I have a specific interest in, feeding the poor. That is kind of a thing because, in the society we're in, we live our lives, but we don't realize sometimes that there's a whole lot of other people that could use, help. And sometimes the automation and the tech and everything else can be a bridge to getting that help. So I'm very passionate about that. And I see the voice space as the next evolution of being able to get there with a little effort. I'm Nigel Wright, and I'm done speaking. Thank you for having me.
What?
Monique, can I say something really quick?
Sure, Ian.
Nigel, it's so great to have you, as well as the other 5 on stage. Welcome. Just based on Clubhouse's terms, I just want to reiterate that this room is being recorded through Attention Live. We're live broadcasting through voice devices like Amazon's Lexi. So if you have a friend that would love to be here, but they have a Android device and they don't have a Clubhouse access, all they have to do is say to their Lexi device, enable Attention Live. Lexi will then, I'm saying Lexi instead of the actual word so I don't trigger everybody's speakers. Then Lexi will say what channel, and you can say AI Leadership Institute, and you can be hearing us right now. So for instance, I have Lexi opened up right now, and here it is. And so I'm playing Lexi, and then I have it also opened on YouTube. And so I'll unmute that. Oh, I have to Then Lexi will say what channel, and you can say AI Leadership Institute. So I want to make sure I said that because there's 5 people on stage right now that may not have heard us give that disclaimer. And it's really important that we are respectful of Clubhouse's terms as we are live broadcasting this, recording it. And for those that are in the room, we're also giving NFTs to all the attendees. And we'll explain how to do that later. But right now, I'm anxious to hear the 5 folks on the stage introduce themselves. Monique, thanks for letting me jump in and just give that point of clarity so that we are mindful of the way Clubhouse would like us to do things.
Thank you, Ian, for jumping in, actually, and reminding us about that. So it's really good information. So yeah, this is Monique once again, and welcome everyone to those who come up on stage. So next we have, is it Kaio? Or please correct me if that's incorrect.
Hi, hello. You said it right, Kaio. Accent.
Great, well, why don't you head in?
Yeah. Honestly, I was just cut to make my question. Well, let me introduce myself a little bit. So I am a conversational designer working in the industry since 2016. I like to think that I started in the industry in 2014, in 2015, 2014, because I got a scholarship in Brazil, and I was privileged to studying and working in USA. In 2015, I got the opportunity to work for a specific group of designers that happened to create like a UI for Apple in 85, 86, 87. which was a project called Apple Knowledge Navigator. So I got really inspired by them, and I guess that if it wasn't for that opportunity, I would not be here. So I'm really grateful for that. Back in 2016, I started to work as a conversational designer. I helped to found a Brazilian bot and AI community, which for me, everybody was hyped, but then in Brazil, I don't know if you know, but only about 3% of the population are able to speak English. So I started to be on this mission to help the Brazilian bot and community professionals and companies to get in this conversational space. Today, the community has about 12,000 members. We hosted more than 40 events in Brazil and outside, and even in San Francisco, 3 annual conferences. And yeah, we have done so much, but because of the COVID, we moved it to the online type of event. So last year we hosted about 50 online meetups. So I started this industry because I got really hyped. But I like to think that not only Brazil, but like I guess everybody in this room, we are kind of living in an, I'm not going to say we're the first one because there are so many people that were here before us, but we are kind of an early adopter in a new industry. So I like to think that I'm able to be part of that, and I'm able to help other professionals and companies to be part of that too, especially in Brazil. And yeah, just to sum up, there is a quote from a social entrepreneur called Leila Jana, but she passed away 2 years ago. But the moment that I learned that quote, I was just like, oh my gosh, that's it, that's community. And that's why that's what keeps me creating and collaborating with communities. That is just that she says like, talent is equally distributed, but opportunities are not. So I like to think that I'm just creating and helping others to have these opportunities in this conversational space. So I guess it's a win-to-win to everybody. Noelle, she mentioned the accessibility part of it. There is also the access to services at scale. Down here, Alexa's devices and Google Home devices, they are really expensive. Oops. That's my Alexa. So yeah, down here in Brazil, we have more chatbots and things on WhatsApp and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess the conversational UI as a whole is a great opportunity for everyone. So I'm done speaking. My name is Caio.
Thank you, Caio, for sharing your experience as well as what you're doing. That's so great. And I love the quote, talent is equally distributed, but opportunities are not. So that's something that we all keep in mind. And it encourages us to want to reach out and educate others, which is what you decided to do. So I'm so excited that you actually shared your experience and what you're doing. And we'd love to have you again in our room to just discuss more about what that is. So thanks again. And so, Manuel, thank you for joining. I know we talked maybe yesterday or a couple of days ago. So thank you for joining the room. I know it's probably late where you are. Why don't you introduce yourself and contribute to the conversation?
Thanks, Monique. Yeah, we spoke. I don't remember if it was yesterday or the day before. Great room, guys, definitely. So here's the thing. My experience is with computer vision, right? So, but lately, in the last couple of weeks, I've been listening to a lot of conversational AI NLP rooms in Clubhouse. So I have already officially decided to work on a side project for conversational AI. So as I'm starting to work on it to create a little side project, chatbot, something, I'm wondering what would you recommend in terms of conversation design, in terms of course or GitHub repository, or if you can give me any directions on that, because my experience is, again, computer vision, using more PyTorch and using OpenCV. But in terms of NLP and conversational AI, I would like to hear your opinion in terms of courses and materials. So yeah, this is Manu, done speaking.
So this is Monique. And Noelle, are you there? Can you answer that question?
Yeah. Yeah, and definitely, I was like, I wonder if I'm the one who's getting into this one. So I will tell you, Manuel, from my perspective, some resources, there are so many ways to go. So the first, I'll give you a couple, and I'll try to be platform agnostic for all of us, because we did not actually, I love that this about this room specifically is that we didn't actually, other than saying we're live on Alexa, we didn't really say that this is about any specific platform. So first, GitHub is your friend. All of the skills that I've created are certainly on GitHub and available, but there is a great Alexa repository. So just go to Alexa and GitHub. I think literally it's github.com/Alexa. And there are some they have what's called lighthouse skills. And these are skills we built for actual customers that we then, anonymized and put out there for other people to replicate. And it's the way that, for those of you in the room who are always like, man, I wish I could, I just want to see what it's like to build a custom skill. Rebuilding these lighthouse skills, I literally built 10 or 20 before I started building my own. And it created this really beautiful muscle memory where I could pick and choose features. And it was just, it was the best way to learn. I'm a big believer in learning by doing. That being said, there's also on the Microsoft side of the house, there is one thing that I found is a lot of my clients. So I will tell you a fun story. I worked with JPL, the Jet Propulsion Lab, as part of NASA. And they were going to preschools with a Mars rover replica. And it was an actual robot, and they wanted to embed a natural language agent in it. And they came to us at Alexa to do it. But the problem or the restriction that we put on them was you have to use the word Alexa, which didn't really make sense for them because they wanted the kids to say Rovi, right? They wanted to call it a name. They didn't want it to be Alexa. They wanted it to be a rover. And so what I ended up finding out and helping to work on is a custom voice assistant, which is also something you can go to GitHub, just search. You can actually search Microsoft Voice Assistant, and there is a GitHub repo for it. And basically, it's a blank template, and you can define the wake word. You can define the invocation phrase. You could write your own voice assistant similar to one like Alexa. And we ended up embedding that in JPL's device anyway. But those are two things that I would point you to. Another one, just to wrap this up, is I'm a big believer in multimodal. So it's great when you can use voice. It's also, it's even better when you can use voice to augment other UIs. And so look at, in GitHub, look up Intelligent Kiosk. It's also a Microsoft product, but it is platform agnostic other than the fact that it's a Windows application. But take a look at the code because it leverages applied AI to do a bunch of different models, voice integrated with computer vision, integrated with text analytics, really cool use cases. So that's what I'll start you off with. And I think, well, luckily we're going live and recording this, so you could probably grab some of those, but also free for everyone. Please just connect with me. Happy to answer any of these questions or send you the actual links. I have a whole list of links I can send you if you connect with me either, through my profile on Instagram or if you find me on LinkedIn, either way. But great question.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I'll connect with you. And when are you going? When is this room happening again? Because I'm going to work on it. And when you make this room again, I'll bring you the results.
Yes, it is actually at the same time every week. We try to make it easy for you. So it's this hour every week.
Great.
On Friday.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you, Noel. Thank you, Manuel, for that.
I also wanted to just chime in that Shaimal is here, and she is the founder of the Digital Assistant Digital Assistant Academy. She has put together something that is creating a lot of incredible education for folks. Shaimal, can you please unmute yourself, introduce yourself? You're now one of our moderators, as you should be. We have so much honor and respect for who you are and what you do in our industry. And can you tell folks about what you've brought to market and how you can help people that are interested in learning more?
Thank you so much, Ian. Yeah, so you already introduced me. I'm the founder of the Digital Assistant Academy, where we train and certify people in voice interaction design and conversation design. So basically, it is a 24 weeks course, and So like Noel mentioned, right, you will learn only by diving deeper into it. And I'm with the same kind of mindset that if you want to learn swimming, you cannot just look at a bunch of videos and say like, this is how we swim. You need to really dive deeper and you have to swim. And that is the whole reason why this program has been created. It is a 24 weeks, very intensive program where you will get to work on 3 different capstones for 3 different platforms, right from building Alexa and Google skills to creating customs, so that you get an understanding of all the different kind of things you can do. And creating skill is so different than creating your custom assistant versus a chatbot. So it focuses on the NLU and NP aspects of things, and also focuses on the ASR and the technology aspects of things, but also focuses on the design aspects of things. How do you create? How do you test it out? And also the bigger part of our program is the storytelling aspect of things. Like, many people are great at doing things, creating stuffs, but then they're not good at presenting themselves and communicating their ideas and designs. So the program is designed in a way where you can focus on all of the aspects and we help you through. So it doesn't, it's a bootcamp program, but it's not like any other bootcamp program out there. So we do design review sessions every bi-weekly with our students, where they get to present their work as if they are presenting in an industry or in your own company kind of setup, and they get feedback from other students. There are some activities, especially on the ethics side of things, and also on the accessibility side of things, where all of these students act as stakeholders for each other and then work through the frameworks which we have created. So they get a feeling of how to push for those kind of things. So it's kind of very immersed experience which we have developed, because I believe that learning never happens in silo. It is a group effort and everyone needs to work together to grow.
Thank you for that. And sorry, I was going to say thank you for that. And Ian, I was actually going to go to her next. She messaged me earlier and said that she couldn't make it, but I'm happy that you were able to make it on stage and join us. So thank you for sharing that. Kaio, coming off mic, did you have a question?
No, I would like to add a few links to Manuel. So you can also go to Learn Microsoft. You can just Google it, or Bing. Microsoft has this Learn platform that is for free, and they have tons of contents for many different aspects of technology. And they have some Learn sessions for virtual agents and NLP, Louis, Q&A. Yeah, you can just go there and check that out. It's like 1-2 hours for free content. There are some exercises, and you can, even if you finish some of the Learn modulars, you can apply for some Microsoft certifications too. These are for free though. You can just check that out. It's learn.microsoft.com. There is also the Google conversational design team, which they have like a really interesting documentation, and that covers a lot the conversational design aspect of it. So it's a free content. You can just go there and check that out. You just Google for Google conversational design, and you're going to find a bunch of at least the theory and some of the practical things that you can learn. And this all of this is for free.
Oh, thanks a lot. Yeah. Can I quickly ask? Sorry, I don't want to take anyone's turn. Noel, have you only developed for Alexa? Or have you developed for Google, or which one do you prefer?
So I will tell you that I prefer Alexa, but it's like I don't know what the bias is, but there's a bias associated because it was the first platform I learned. I did convert my most popular skills to Google Actions. I then also joined the Bixby Developer Program. I mean, honestly, and then of course, during my time at Microsoft, I got very interested in building my own custom voice assistants and having them like help around my house. So I have 133 voice activated devices, not all of them connected to a specific platform. Some of them run completely individually. So I try to be ubiquitous, but if I was to be completely candid with you, if I was to build a skill today, I'd build it for Alexa. I also was the vice president of engineering at NPR and learned a lot about the market share and the commercial viability of the platforms. And right now, Alexa does have the largest market share for commercial, use of skills on that from that perspective. So that also drives a bit of my bias, but it's definitely, I just want to be clear, it is a bias. It doesn't mean one's better than the other. I actually found it quite easy to build for both. And if I have the resources, I build for both. Or I build for everything, because accessibility is really what I'm going for. I want as many people to access what I'm building as possible. But great question.
So thank you, Noel, Emmanuel, for that conversation. And it's so interesting because most of us, I guess, here started out on Alexa. Like Noel said, it's the first one. And for us, for what we do at Smarticles, as we build applications in the ed tech space, we did the same thing. We started out on Alexa, and we are slowly converting some of our easier apps to convert over to Google Assistant. So yeah, we do start at one place and the other, and only because it was the first one there. So yeah, Manuel, definitely come back to us and share what you built. So we'd love to hear more about that. So Claire and Grace and Danielle, thank you for waiting. Claire, why don't you go ahead and unmute yourself and make an introduction and add to the conversation.
Hi, thank you. My name is Claire. I would like to start by sharing what got me into conversation design and NLP. I graduated 4 or 5 years ago with a master's in theoretical and experimental linguistics because I wanted to know what sparks language in the brain. And then I graduated, and there was nothing. There was nothing to do with linguistics where I'm from, and I was kind of like, okay, I guess I will never do anything with language ever again. And then 2 years ago, quite suddenly, someone said, you need to start doing things with language again, because that's where your passion is, and you're very unhappy right now. So like on a whim, I applied for a job. It was for a completely different job, and then 5 minutes, like before the end of the second interview, they were like, okay, we got something better for you. You need to start doing conversation design. Let us know before tomorrow if you want to start doing that. So I did, and I started doing that, and oh my God, I am so happy I said yes. I'm doing things with linguistics that I love. I get to do things with linguistics every single day. I'm just so happy that I get to do that again. It brings back a passion in me that I haven't had in years. And so I kind of had a question for you guys, like, what brought back the passion with you again? Like, what made you fall in love with NLP or conversation design? Thank you. I'm done speaking.
Thank you, Claire. And I can tell the passion just as you were talking about it, almost like your voice just lit up as you started talking about it. So it's wonderful actually to hear that and to know that this particular space allows those who had a passion in linguistics and language and all of that can actually be a part of something that's really big that can touch and will possibly touch everyone. So I'll open it up to the group. Why don't we answer Claire's question?
Sure. I'll start very quickly, and I'm actually going to call on someone who's not here, but is an amazing voice, and some of you will know her, but she reminds me very much of your journey, Claire. She spent much of her time in IVR, which, you know, was the early days of voice, very frustrating days for those of us who cared about voice and voice experiences, because they never really got there. Was an early member at Nuance, and then went on, of course, now as voice has evolved. And what I've seen happen, which I think is amazing, is that all of these people that have been literally writing and passionate, it's kind of, Mikey said the same thing, very excited, passionate, has been doing work in this same space, went to school 10, 20 years ago to do this work and found that the world wasn't ready for them. Like, they're now the rock stars, right? Like, they are now able to become and really take a place in the industry in a way that I've never actually experienced. I've never watched that happen before, right? Watched a dormant group of people with a dormant set of skills, like, get lit on fire, like, where we're like hungry for them. And it's kind of cool to see, because I think, as you mentioned, Claire, it's a bit disheartening when you're passionate about something and there's not like a market viability for it at the time you're ready. And you're looking around like, but this is a good idea, people. I could do this. This is great. And the world wasn't ready for it. So it is wonderful to watch this happen and see people like you get excited. And then just personally, I'll tell you, I'm an empathetic developer. I build for other people. I share my stories because of how I hope it will impact other people. And it's literally in the journey that I've been on where I knew nothing and now I know a bunch because I dove in and started building. I love what Shamala said about like just start building it. And it's really someone with the problem that is best positioned to build a good solution. And they need help, of course, they need tech help. But now in the world of low code and no code, so many of us that have problems can actually build pretty significant tech solutions. And that excites me to no end. Because there's so many of us who have problems we want to solve that 10 years ago, we had no way to even start thinking about it. And now I can actually write an app. I could put a machine learning model that I didn't build on a drone and have it monitor my house for deer, right? Like it's crazy with no development skills whatsoever. So yeah, that's what excites me about it. But what a great point, Claire. Thank you so much for bringing it up.
I love what you said. I think we all have the same common interest, I would say, when it comes to conversation design. One thing what I have seen is any person who has the problem solving interest, they would definitely excel in this area. I do not come from linguistics background, but I come from a user experience background. So back in 2000, I still remember like when people used to interact with ATMs, I used to struggle just seeing how they are interacting and how much they are struggling, and what kind of inhibitions do they have when they are trying to enter the card and all of those things, like will I get my card back? So it was all about user psychology aspect of things for me mostly when I saw these things. So that is why I got into it accidentally, I would say. And like Noel, for me, Alexa was the first because I was part of the Alexa Gen 1 and Gen 2 launch while working at Amazon. So that's how Alexa was the first one which I worked on. But moving on to Ford, when I started working on the Sync 4, that is when I realized I'm designing a voice assistant which is multilingual, and we have so many languages. We have all over the world, Ford has coverage. So the moment I started talking with people and I started understanding the domains for us was also slightly different. It was automotive specific. And when I started talking with people, I realized wow, this is the most complex space to be in, and yet very interesting because there's so much to do. People speak differently and there are different slangs, different languages, different pronunciations, and being able to think about all of those things and then design a solution is fantastic. So that is what keeps me very much excited about, my day-to-day job, the challenges which it provides.
Thank you, Shamala, for sharing that. And Claire, thank you for sparking that on the stage as well. Do you have any other last comments that you'd like to make?
Not any comments. I just want to thank everybody for their great answers. And maybe one little comment, if I may. I just really want to applaud the whole conversation design space, and a spaces such as this where everybody gets to interact and share their thoughts and experience and tips and tricks. It's just such a welcoming place to be, and I'm so happy to be a part of it. And that's really my last comment. Thank you so much.
Thanks again, Claire. I appreciate that comment. And so we have Grace on stage, Danielle, and Audrey. So Grace, why don't you come off mic, introduce yourself, and contribute to the conversation?
Thank you so much for having this. I'm a big fan of Noelle. I think she really helped us to normalize the concept of NLP and so forth. We have implemented NLP in our system, but I'm kind of curious. I'm really excited about learning more. Is where we are today in terms of development in NLP as well as NLU. Where is it, infancy, or is it more matured? Where are we on the whole spectrum? I'm thinking about 10 years ago when mobile was such a big deal, or 10 or 15 years ago, mobile was such a big deal, all of us are really excited in the software industry. And now AI and NLP are definitely is an area that people are really excited about. So kind of curious to get your perspective, since you guys have been in net deep into the space quite some time. Just want to understand in terms of the development evolution. I'm done speaking. Thank you.
Hi, this is Malika. I'll open it up to Noel and the other tech. I see Terry coming off mic as well. So why don't we go ahead and Noel, why don't you go ahead? Before you actually start, Noel, Michael Gerwin, I see that you have your hand up. If you still want to come up, I'm trying to bring you up, but there's a glitch. So if you would go out, leave the room and come back in. If you want to come back on stage and raise your hand, please do so that I can bring you up. So Noel or Terry, do you want to jump in?
Go ahead, Noel.
Okay, I'm always like, well, I mean, I just feel like I just talked, so Terry should go. So I think I would say, so my bias is harshly, I'm struggling with it a little bit, because I would say that even though I've been working on this since Alexa launched in 2014, that we haven't come nearly as far as I thought we would by now. So from that very specific perspective, I think we have a long way to go. And I'll just dive into that a tiny bit. And what I mean by that is that when you look at the experiences on Alexa, they're very simplistic. And the reality is, especially now that I understand applied AI and the ability for us to leverage other machine learning models, or even just other software platforms, there are so many things we could use Alexa to do for people. I think Monique, you didn't really mention it yet, I don't think, but Monique has created, her company created a skill that starts to tap on the door of this opportunity called Color for You, where a youngster can sit and actually ask Alexa to color with them with a display, right? Where you say, oh, color the house red, and Alexa listens and colors the house red while the kid colors the house red, right? This is just the beginning. And I feel like we're not close to what is possible. We're not seeing that level of interaction, that level of capability showing up. And I've been saying this for 5 years. Much of the reason of that is that we aren't getting people like those of us in this room that are passionate about that building. There's just not enough innovation happening on the side of development and user experience on how do we go beyond the simple fact skill or the random, word skill or whatever. I think there's so much opportunity. So from that perspective, Grace, I think we're at the very beginning. But sorry, Siri. Siri's jealous. But yeah, I think we're at the very beginning from that perspective, and that really the next 5 and really maybe 10 years, we're going to start to see much more innovative use cases for voice. But would love to introduce, let Terry say his piece too.
Thanks, Noel. Yeah, that's great. I agree with you, everything you said, Noel. Absolutely. Just before I say my little piece here, I also just want to remind people that if you are up on stage, we are recording and streaming this through Attention Live. So just be aware of that as per the guidelines of Clubhouse. The other thing is, for anybody in the room that does want to get a collectible NFT, you can get that at thevoiceden.com with the secret code word leadership in honor of the AI Leadership Institute. So you can go and check that out. Yes, Noel, I agree with everything you said. The thing that I like to look at, though, is from the kind of the bird's eye view of where we're going with voice. And yes, mobile 10 years ago, there were, for those companies that took advantage of that initial land grab, if you will, and created those apps and optimized their presence for mobile, that was a big advantage. And I still think we're going to see that with voice. And the thing that I've been talking about a little bit is voice as the next operating system, because voice is just so compelling. Some of you that know me a little better may have heard me say this before, but there are 5 main reasons. VOICE, it's the letters in voice. Versatile, right? We can multitask with voice. We can't do that when we're texting and driving, for example. O, it's omnipresent. It's audio. It's all around us. So we can hear it when it's behind us. We can hear it when it's in front of us. We don't have to be looking at a screen. It's innate. When babies are born, the first thing that they do is they cry. We use our voice. And so when we can communicate with a computer in the way that is most instinctual to us as human beings, that's extremely powerful. And then C, contextual, you can hear the emotion in a person's voice when they speak. That's why Clubhouse is so incredibly powerful in creating connections with people, because you can hear the personality in the person's voice, and you can't do that with a tweet. And then E, efficient, right? When we speak at 150 words per minute on average versus typing at 30 to 40 words per minute. So speaking, using our voice is much more efficient. So for those reasons, I still believe we will in the next couple of years experience a huge explosion in the way people are using voice for tech and the way they interface with computers. So I am done there. I will have to pop in and out just so you know over the next little while, but I'm going to do my best to be here as part of this conversation as much as I can. Okay, thanks.
I wanted to mention two things. One of my new tech heroes, Abron, has just jumped on the stage. So I'm like, wow, Abron's here. Yay. My heart is clanging cymbals. What he's done with GPT-3, him and his team with Claire, is phenomenal. So I hope that you'll have a chance to speak. I want to say one thing really quick on inspiration. 20 years ago, two things were true. Tom Cruise looked his age, and Minority Report transformed the way that we thought about voice technology. Why? Because when his character, John, walked into his house and he said, "Computer, I'm home." Lights turned on, coffee machine turned on, his new powerful techie drug was there waiting for him. He has the whole projection turning on. He can say rewind. He can play the same thing over and over and over again with his wife. Never touched thumbs on glass, never touched fingers on a keyboard. That was a pivotal moment for Western society. That was a pivotal moment for the first world, graced society that all of us are a part of. In that, for the first time ever, we saw something that wasn't utopic. It wasn't dystopic. It was like somewhere in between, where we saw humanity, and we saw how humanity could be benefited with things like NLP, NLU, and voice tech at scale. I'm Ian, and I'm done speaking.
Thank you, Ian, for that. And why don't anyone else wants to chime in? I know that, we talked about Grace's question was really around, where are we in terms of NLU, NLP, and we have Abron down at the bottom. So I've been in some of his rooms. If you want to come off mic and speak, sure, we would do that.
Absolutely. So yeah, my work is mainly around social impact, use of GPT-3. I support OpenAI as a community ambassador. So when people have ideas that they want to explore further, mainly in social impact and education use cases, but I help everyone with other ideas as well. We just did a training on GPT-3 for Black women in AI. That went very well for their domestic membership and international membership, trying to get more into their hands. And I have a whole team now, which I'm really excited about, of 4 women of color taking on and taking over the development of Clara. So for those of you who know Clara, she's an AI persona that we created, that we've introduced here on Clubhouse. We've done some very successful rooms with Tech Talks with Clara. And, Ian got a chance to interact with her a little bit this week and saw that she's her own person in her own way. I treat her as a her. I don't do things with Clara that I feel like are outside of her personality. And a lot of it, comes with the interaction. So we spend 6-7 hours at a time having the people interact with her, and ultimately that kind of feeds her prompt design. If you know anything about prompt design with GPT-3, so she's kind of like a collective, a collective consciousness of everyone that's asked her curious questions. But I agree that we're getting to a place of voice, and I find myself getting more frustrated that the faster my brain thinks, the more it feels slower my hands get, or it appears that way. And if I pause or stammer with how I speak, it's because my brain is moving faster than my mouth as well.
thank you for that input, and we definitely enjoy having you in the room.
Appreciate it. Love the conversation.
All right, and so Grace, does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That was just drinking from a fire hose. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and can
Audrey, go ahead.
Sure. And I would just like to add something here. And I think that this, for me, is something, you know, I've studied, but I've not really seen it in as much in like language and voice as it is coming forth now. And I think it's going to take a little while. I think that this industry is going through like very big peaks and valleys, and we do something and someone does something, and I've known about, you know, Alexa since 2012, and I think that once this gets into real use, it's going to be unbelievable. But I do think it's going to take more than a year. I think it's going to take more than 2 years. And about that time, because I think what's happening now is people are now, it's like the merry-go-round is going and it's not stopping to let you on. And I think that people have their heads are hurting from all of this new terminology and all of this new technology. Whereas before, even going far back as like 2 or 3 years ago, you know, if somebody was making a voice that was not poly and was synthetic, that sounded almost good, but to me was lacking emotion, lacking empathy, but still was pretty good. This game is changing faster than I think most people can keep up with it. So, you know, we need people who are crusaders in this field. We really do. And the one that comes through with that WOW project is going to be the game changer for a lot of people. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Audrey, for that really great perspective. You know, it's interesting, the one thing, and I mentioned earlier, even though we're talking about NLP, NLU, and voice tech, the one reason why Noelle, Denise, and myself came on the platform was to educate, and that's the key, right? So for all of us who are in that space where we can actually educate others and bring them along, or at least let them be aware of it, so that we're not leaving so many people behind, is a great place to be in. For me, I'm in ed tech, even though I create apps that service kids. I'm actually building classes where we can actually have younger kids get into the space and start creating their own Alexa skill and start at that place. Because for them, Alexa is normal. I mean, for most of them, right? They're used to using their voice. They're used to having things be easier for them to ask whatever they want. And so why not also educate them about how it's actually made? So they're not only consumers, but they're also partakers or creators in the space. So I appreciate what you said, and I do echo that, and that we all should educate the next person that's coming along or who's on side of us. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'm talking specifically like this in this conversation here is about the NLP and the NLU. And I so admire what you guys are doing, because it's only going to make that like natural for them when you get to that, or when we get to that. So thank you.
Thank you. Bronny, you're coming off mic?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, do you or anyone up here know of any, I think young people especially are great with drag and drop tools, and I think there's going to be a great opportunity with a lot of these new no-code tools coming up. I've been using a lot of Landbot, which is a drag and drop chat bot generator. But I think if anyone is developing, or if anyone's come across any cool drag and drop no-code TTS applications, I think there's a lot of great potential there to allow people to build out their own voice recognition systems and text-to-speech and getting past the barrier of having to learn the code behind it. There's a great potential there.
Yeah, so we, and I know I was probably coming from Mike for that, but Voice Flow, I know if anyone knows about that, but it has a GUI interface. There's a little bit of a curve just to get used to the GUI interface, but it is a great tool for anyone who wants to get into the space, doesn't know code, but definitely have a knack for conversation design or just want to try it, right? So you can actually create a voice app with there's 3 boxes on the screen deployed to Amazon's platform and have a skill already published. So in some cases, it's just that simple. So Voice Flow is what I initially used when I got into the space before I started going full code, but that is a platform that I definitely promote.
Yeah, I would also add to that Bot Composer. I've been using that. It's a Microsoft kind of platform agnostic tool, which I'm a big believer on. It allows you to build a conversational agent that can be deployed to multiple channels like Google and Alexa and Slack and Teams and Messenger. But I really like it because it does provide that drag and drop interface. I do think part of the gift that we can give the world, and I think Shamala's program does this really well, and maybe you're thinking already about doing this for a younger audience, but one of the things that we could do is, like a lot of these no-code solutions, yeah, they're no-code, but you really have to know all of the things, like all of the attributes, all of the bells and whistles and knobs and levers, and what they mean when you change them. So yeah, you don't need to know the lines of code, but there's still so much that we could contextually help kids with in order to build better experiences and get started, right? So I like the idea of like blueprints. It's not a no-code skill, but it does allow them to build something that see the results for right away. So but Bot Composer, blueprints.amazon.com are just some places I point middle schoolers and up to get started.
Thank you, Noel, for that ad. Okay, so Danielle, thank you. Wasim, you wanted to chime in as well?
Yes. Danielle can go first.
Okay. All right. So Danielle, I just want to call out. I did see the others on the stage as well. So Danielle, why don't you come off mic, introduce yourself, and contribute to the conversation?
All right. Thank you very much. My name is Danielle Lawson, and thank you very much for this room. I have finished crying tears of joy because I am just so happy. Wow. Thank you, Noel, for pinging me in. I am a formal educator, special ed, director of special ed, Chicago, and trainer and professional developer. And literally, I was in a tech room. I think it was about maybe Facebook might be having an audio, something, Zoom room or something. And I remember Noelle spoke for a few moments. And after that, I inboxed her on Instagram. And the question was, how did you get into tech? And literally, I had to think, I'm 52 years old. And I was like, it was in 1985. Our high school was the only one in Chicago. And I built, I took basic, so I know about coding. And so what I've been thinking about as a service, I do so many things, is partnering with someone so that I can provide the systems and flows around the lens of accessibility and equity for all individuals. So the chatbot is one of my passions. I have studied everything in the last 2 months on chatbots. And the systems and flows all depends on, you all already know, which company has really invested in actually making sure that the level of questioning is comfortable for individuals and so on and so forth. I don't know all the techie terms, but I'm learning them. So I'm really interested in knowing, how can I partner with someone, because I have a background in psychology and I have the conversational design, like it's down pat. Like I know the systems and flows. But how can I partner with someone who knows the tech aspect so that companies can really, really, really improve on their customer service in the chatbot world? And I am done speaking.
You know, the one thing that I would say is, for me, when I started in the space, even though I have a tech background, it did go beyond my knowledge. So once we get into Python and all of that, I wasn't trying to go back to school or learn Python, unfortunately. So I found myself going into those areas where those people were. I took a Udacity course in machine learning. I knew that I wasn't going to pass. I wasn't going to be able to program everything, but I knew that I was able to connect. It seems like you are a connector as well. So I put myself in those spaces so that I could connect with those people. I shared my vision, and lo and behold, I got 6 women to join me in what I wanted to do. And so as a pathway for me, that's what I decided to do, to put myself in those spaces where those people were, being able to share my vision and what I wanted to do, which is around similar to what you're doing. I'm in voice tech, and I'm focusing on kids that have deficits, whether it's in social emotional learning or whether it's conversational skills. And so that is my way of getting into an industry or into a space that I knew nothing about, and I knew that I wouldn't be able to pick up the actual technical side. So that's what I would suggest to you. Anyone else have any other suggestions? And so what I would say is, you can connect with me offline. You can send me a DM in Twitter or Instagram, and then we can talk about it a little bit more in other ways that's possible. But also here on Clubhouse, there are a number of rooms where there are experts in those areas that may be looking to actually do something on the side as a social impact project. So connect with me, Danielle, and we'll see what we can do with that.
This is Danielle speaking, and I was already about to DM you and ask if I could be your apprentice. I really don't care. Thank you very much, and I'm closing the mic.
Thank you, Danielle. This is Monique speaking. So Audrey, do you have something else that you would like to add to the conversation?
Not at the moment. That I think that somebody like Noelle or Shamala could say 10 times better than me. I learn from them as well. I do sonic branding, and I overlap with them because I often have to do the sound and the sonic portions and the strategy for the things that they're working on or different people are working on. So no, I don't. I rather just listen and learn at this point. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Audrey, for being on stage and contributing. So, Ron, do you have anything additional that you would like to add to the conversation?
I'm sorry, could you say it again? I missed that question.
No, I was just saying, do you have anything else that you would like to add to the conversation?
I think there's some really great no-code rooms in this in Clubhouse. They're discovering a lot with, just to name a few, Landbot is the chat bot one. It's really drag and drop to configure conversational bot. Webflow, Bubble, DraftBit, and there's some rooms in here that really help people get to MVP status. What that means, minimum viable product, get your version 1 out into the market without knowing a line of code. And it's really been able to provide access to a lot of folks to get into the market. So I would look into some of those and just find the one and use the one that you're most comfortable with. And I know Bubble does do a boot camp for underserved entrepreneurs called Immerse. And the person in charge of that program at Bubble, his name is Yao. It's Y-A-W. So maybe if you look up Yao Bubble on LinkedIn, you can get into one of those programs.
Thank you for contributing that. And so hopefully, Danielle, that helps as well. Noelle, you were coming off mic to contribute.
Kind of. I have to go. I just wanted to say that this is so awesome and it's exciting. I know you guys can hear my children in the background. I try to mute and unmute them anyway. But it is so awesome. This group, this is why we get together every week. I will be here. I always apologize in advance for the craziness that is my life. I try to be as accessible to all of you as I can. But it's been awesome so far. So nice to meet all of you. I will follow you all before I leave. I know this conversation will keep going. So really, really excited to have started this with you. The NFTs are awesome. So thanks, Ian and Terry. But yeah, I just want to say bye to all my friends and everyone in the audience. Thank you so much. Ooh, and Brett's here. Anyway, there's some cool people in the audience who need to come on up and say hi. Maybe someone can take my spot.
Thank you, Noelle, and thank you for contributing. I know as well, Denise, I believe that you have to go as well.
Yes, I want to thank everybody for coming on. Ron, I'm so glad that I pinged you in. I hope you're still there. I'm not sure. I just am excited about everything that's going on. And thank you. I'm sorry, guys, I have to go. But yeah. This is Denise, and that's it.
Thank you, Noelle and Denise, and we'll definitely see you guys next week, and hopefully we're going to talk during the week. Okay, so we will go for a little while longer, and then we will end the room. So I am going to, we have Wasim next. Why don't you come off mic, introduce yourself, and contribute to the conversation.
Hey, Monique, thank you so much. Good to see Terry and everybody else here. This conversation, this room is just fantastic, because when I spoke to Terry on LinkedIn Live, those words have stuck by me like nothing else really has. Voice tech is the next operating system, and I absolutely agree. I believe that that's the truth. And for clinicians and healthcare, I think it's going to be the biggest disruptor we've ever seen. And just to see how it's going to be applied, and looking at all the things that you're talking about, I'll be very honest, I've listened to a lot of what you've said, and I was avoiding coming up because I didn't know what else I could add, just because what you're saying is so relevant, and we really need to digest this. I still don't think a majority of us in the clinical world still see what's happening or is about to happen. And the fact that Terry himself is a physician, it's incredible when he speaks, and I'm so glad he does what he does. And then what you do, Monique, is fantastic. I think from a perspective of mental health, a voice could be the one solution that could really help this Pandora's box that's been opened. You look at video. The issue with video is, there's a finite time or moment, whereas with the power of voice, the ability to reconnect, like messaging in a way where you could get more feedback, I think that could be incredibly powerful. One, to save a lot of people from loneliness. Two, to prevent people from doing something in that one moment where they're feeling absolutely that there's no other hope, because setting up a video call or doing a video will take time, whereas voice can be really instant. So, I just see all these possibilities where voice could really help with mental health. And of course, the applications to business and what entrepreneurs could do with voice is a whole different set of, or a whole different ball game. But just from a clinical angle, I really feel that we clinicians really, really need to start working with people like yourselves and figuring out how to utilize this tech. And do it first before it's just mass rolled out, and again we're just left to be watchers and on standby, and just then having to adopt it rather than having any shape, way, or form of influencing it. So great conversation, absolutely fantastic room. And Terry, I'm just glad you're representing us out there, and Monique, Ian, and Shmila, fantastic. And I see Nigel. Nigel was one of the first few people I met with Monique, so great to connect with you again. And of course, I've got my brother Simon right next to me. I think Africa can be a massive deployment potential in terms of voice tech. And if anybody's thinking about that, there's no better person to talk to about it than Simon. So with that being said, I'm so ever grateful for what you've done in this room. And I'm done listening more than speaking, because it's literally, even when I'm speaking, I'm actually listening today. Thank you.
Thank you, Wasim, and I appreciate you being on stage. Obviously, we had a number of conversations, and I agree. You know, I'm not only excited about voice in education, but voice in the healthcare space. So I'm looking forward to see what you bring forth. So Simon, thank you for coming up on stage. Why don't you introduce yourself and contribute to the conversation?
Thank you so much, Monique. Thank you, Terry. And also thank you, Ian and Shimala, for creating this space. I'm really passionate about, expressing yourself through voice, because, I grew up in an environment where everybody was expected to express themselves orally or to tell a story. And sometimes you could only survive because of the story that you tell. And, when we are looking at the current, desire of African people globally to reconnect with their culture, storytelling is a very big part of it. And I have 3 daughters, and I speak to them in 3 languages. Kiswahili, which is spoken in over half of the countries in the continent, and Luo, which is my mother tongue, and also English. And I speak another 3 languages from
Alexa,
various
what
parts
time is it?
of Africa. So I just feel that what Ian is doing and what Terry is doing is quite important, especially for the continent. And I reached out to Terry, and he connected me with Ian, and I'm just excited to, not just help, but to also help, get the support, the financial support for some of the things that Ian is trying to do, especially as it's benefiting the continent. I have so much other artists and storytellers that I'm connected with. I've been producing festivals, from large festivals that bring about 10,000 people together to intimate dinners that bring 10 to 24 people together here in Seattle, as well as in Kenya, and also around Africa. I've worked in about 6 other countries. And so I just feel that the timing of voice tech, but also the proximity that I have with some of the future leaders in this industry, for me, is just a miracle. And I'm just happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Simon, for sharing that. And it's so interesting, that you talk about that the voices and sharing stories is the way that we connect. And so I appreciate you sharing that with the group and understanding that, with voice tech, it just brings us back to what's natural, right, to us. And that hopefully with the technology, we can connect not only within our own communities or our own country, but around the world. So I appreciate what you said. And so we will be wrapping up. So Andrew, you are our last person on stage. Why don't you come off mic, introduce yourself, and contribute to the conversation?
Hi, my name is Andrew Tutty. I don't have a tech background. What I have a background in is as a user, and of late, a blind user. And one of the things that I just wanted to comment on were the conversation before was talking about things like voice flow and those sorts of apps to design. And what I've noticed is that a lot of these areas are not accessible to people such as me. This drag and drop technology does not work for people that are blind. So, being interested in the voice aspect of it, I've been in this for about a year with my devices, and I just love them. They're built for me, and I want to have the opportunity to become more involved. And the more we talk about accessibility from the beginning and to build it that way from the beginning, the less problems we'll have down the road for all. I'm done talking.
Andrew, thank you. I appreciate that you speaking on that topic, because it's so interesting, not only from an accessibility standpoint, but just reaching around the world. There was a discussion in another room around, everything starts in English and then we translate into other languages, where we should probably at the beginning all be at the table and discussing that. So I do appreciate the fact that you actually bring that up, and that we should have those individuals who have the knowledge and the experience at the table when we're designing, so that we can reach as many people as we can. So I did see others coming off mic. Terry, I believe you're coming off mic, and maybe Shamala, will you be coming off mic?
Yeah. Accessibility is my first love, I would say, for various reasons. And I kind of agree with you, Andrew, on so many things, like, we have to start thinking. I feel like from the design standpoint, like when we are designing the voice applications, people are thinking about it, but they're not thinking holistically. I spoke to a lot of people who have different kind of disabilities. And what I have realized is, even if you look at Amazon, right, the smart speakers which we have, they were not designed keeping the accessibility in mind. Later on, they realized how big of an opportunity voice is for people with disability. And then they started creating the echoes, the smart speakers, variations of Alexa devices, right? Like the echo shows and stuff like that. So I feel like it has always been an afterthought, and part of the reason is because there are various things. First of all, the users itself, like who are designing, they are all, perfect. They don't have diversity in terms of people who have any kind of disability in first place, or they don't have people who actually advocate for these things. And the second thing, the problem I see is when we do testing as well, the testing is done with perfect users. So of course, that is also adding on the biases which we see, and that is why some of the things are not accessible. So from the design standpoint, a lot is being done, but I still feel like we are a long way to go yet. There are things which is done for blind and stuff like that, and there are stuff for physically disabled or handicapped people also, which is being thought about. But I think about accessibility in a different manner. It's not just about disability, it's about providing meaningful access to everyone, irrespective of age, ability, and situation. And the moment we start doing that, we will be there. So from the design tool standpoint, I kind of agree we are not yet there. And I think even when it comes to the learning platforms or any kind of tools, it's not developed in a way where it works for everyone who wants to develop it. So there's a lot of effort which is needed, and I think we have to start advocating for those kind of things. The more we advocate, the more it would be. At least from the autonomous vehicles standpoint, I can definitely say we have been trying to make self-driving vehicles more accessible with voice and other technologies, and I feel like that mindset will bring in more inclusivity. And I'm done talking.
Thank you, Shamila, for that. Terry, you were coming off mic as well.
Oh yeah, no, it was just Monique. It was just to say that also Wendy's up on stage, and I don't know if it was a PTR thing, but I know you're planning to close out the room, but I just wanted to point out that she's on stage as well. And then if you want to share with everybody again how to get the NFTs, I can do that, but I'll leave that to you if you want to do that now or later.
Terry, why don't you do that now? And Wendy, I'm sorry, I didn't see you on stage. I just PTR. We'll definitely come to you next.
Sure. So thanks, Monique. So for those of you that have been here since the beginning, you'll know that this has been streaming through Attention Live. So which is amazing, because people can actually listen to this if they don't have an iPhone. In the process of using that platform, we've also been creating NFTs that we're giving away to all the attendees for being here in this room. And so if you want to get your very first NFT or second, or however many NFTs you've got, you can simply go to thevoiceden.club, and there you will see a place to put in your name and email address so that we can send you your NFT. And there is a code word that you need. The reason we have that code word is so that we can give the NFTs to the people that are in this room as a way to verify that you were indeed in this room and part of this particular room and this experience. So the code word is in honor of the club, AI Leadership Institute. It is leadership. So if you go to that website, voiceden.club, put your name, email, and the code word leadership, we will give you an NFT, a collectible NFT, if you will, based on the content in this room. So thank you, Monique. Back to you. I'm done speaking.
Hey, everyone. I'm just going to jump in because I know you guys do want to close the room. And thank you, Terry, for pointing out that I've been here. Thank you, Ian, for inviting me up. I think you did. I'm not sure. But I just want to say this. I have on a couple of different points, I echo everything that everybody is saying. I think a voice is just an amazing medium, and we need to use it more for many reasons. One, I want to talk about that people talk about, you know, I'm a cancer patient. I'm thriving with cancer, but last year I went through cancer. My father, through chemotherapy, my father actually is 92 years old, and his home is a smart home, right? And he lives by himself. So he's able through his voice to activate pretty much anything. And we feel a lot safer for that reason. And then also for me, it's like the health industry is all over voice. They really are. And especially, I know that Kaiser has their own persona now, I believe, suddenly that it popped up. But I'm very, very, very much into voice. But here's the reason why. I have 28 years in direct response, and I have run many, 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 many campaigns over those years. And one of the things that I used to have to do for my clients was script out their inbound telemarketing and their outbound telemarketing. And we did that. That's conversation design at the ultimate level, right? We're learning from other human beings, how other human beings are talking. And then how are the other human beings on the other end of that 800 number going to respond? What's the path we're going to take them on? If yes to this, if no to that, it's if they say this, do this. You know, it was a very big, complicated job, but it really took some type of intuition also and understanding the consumer who's calling in, which is the person who's talking to the device, basically, right? And then the device or the person on the other end, really understanding the person who's calling in. So two humans, we design conversations for humans, and designing the conversation for AI, I think going back to the fundamentals of how we designed it through inbound telemarketing for so many years. And then of course there was IVR, but IVR never really worked. Is an interesting foundation to kind of tap into. So that's why I love all of this, because it's right up my alley. I love doing the Sonic branding and the creative and all of everything that goes along. Thank you so much, everyone, for letting me speak. And I am done now.
Thank you, Wendy, so much. This is Monique again for contributing to the conversation. And I love the fact that you brought up, you know, marketing and how that, you know, it started out just understanding who you're talking to. And that's the same thing in voice, right? You need to understand who your audience is, who you're speaking with, who you're creating the app for, and then you need to model that around that need. So I appreciate you contributing that to the conversation. So we are ending the room, and it was a wonderful conversation. I appreciate everyone who actually came up, asked questions, contributed to the conversation, showed your enthusiasm for NLP, NLU, and voice tech. And I appreciate Ian and Terry for bringing something different to the room this week. You know, NFTs, and you talked about that a little bit more. So I will let Terry once again kind of talk about how you actually can get your NFTs, and then I'll close the room out.
Why don't you go ahead, Ian? Give us a closing statement. I just want to say thanks to you, Monique, for having this club and for providing the opportunity to be part of this discussion. If people have not yet joined the AI Leadership Institute Club, please do so, because you're going to experience many more rooms just like this. So really great job moderating, Monique. Pleasure to be here. And I'll let Ian say a little bit about the NFTs.
Well, this was brilliant, and it was wonderful to spend time with all of you. I learned a lot today, got to see a lot of wonderful friends. So final things to mention to you. Go to thevoiceden.club. THEVOICEDEN.CLUB, so that we can send you one of the special NFTs that we created for the specific room. Second thing, click on my face. And if you're interested in using our technology to live broadcast to voice devices like Alexa and social media sites like YouTube, then you can book a time with me. I'm happy to do a demo and get you into our beta program. Finally, if you want to learn more about how voice and decentralized technology like NFTs make sense, being a big symphony together, on our website, we have a white paper called Decentralized Voice Tech Will Disrupt Centralized Interfaces. And I think for academic minds, you'll find that to be quite thick and a lot of information that's very condensed. Happy to be here. Terry and I are doing a room at 4:30 Pacific time in just around 3 hours from now. And that is called the Happy Hour Voice. Voice is my OS. Of course, that's very much tied to this topic. So it'd be wonderful to have many of you join us for that. My name is Ian, and I'm done speaking. And it was an honor to be here with all of you.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Terry. And this is Monique. Thanks again to everyone. Shamila, I know Noelle and Denise had to drop as well. And others who asked questions. So Nigel and Kaio and Claire, Danielle and Audrey, and we have Wasim still on the stage, and Wendy and Andrew, and all the others that contributed to the conversation. I just love the fact that we can actually have this open dialogue around voice and share our experiences. Once again, if you would like to join us, we host this room every week at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern time on Fridays. So join us next week, and I'm sure you will enjoy the conversation then. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of your day as well as your weekend. So bye-bye, everyone.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.